shit. Get out.
I'm kind of curious, and get to ask last time, but I know, were you kind of lean? How do you feel about guns? I think that guns are totally fine. Like to own or to want to own or anything like that. I'm totally fine with people wanting to own guns. Don't care. I just don't like the dishonest conversation that we seem to have around basically anything to do with guns. Liberals have a dishonest way of talking about it as well. So I won't like throw all of conservatism under the bus, right? But like, holy shit, at some point, we have to have a like reasonable conversation about this. And I feel like the Democrats are slightly more reasonable because there's just like so few like Democratic politicians in totality that talk about wanting to take all the guns. I don't understand why this one doesn't work. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We got that L. We got 3, 6. It's 3, 6. We've got 1, 2, 3 and over. We got 1, 2, 3 and over. Everything else is separated out. Why the but yeah, no, when it comes to guns, like conservatives need to be more honest and insofar as like why we have the right to own guns and what guns are good for. Yeah, guns are good for self-defense. Guns are good for home defense and stuff like that. But like, you look insane when you're driving around, you know, in like the backwoods, you know, with a arsenal in the back of your pickup, and then you go out with your boys and you like, I don't see anything wrong with that. But when you're talking about home defense, if that's going to be your line to defend, you know, the right to own and bear arms, like I don't think that you're using your, you know, 50 cal Beretta to defend your home. If you are, then you're all right. If you're busting out the 50 cal to defend your home, you don't care about home defense. You just want to see as much, you know, like innards matter, you know, brain matter perfectly spread across your wall as possible. There just needs to be a more reasonable conversation. There are very few, if any, like elected Democrats who are wholesale for getting rid of all guns. And there has never been any legislation or not even suggested by the Democrats that would get rid of all guns. That is just true. Republicans need to drop that line of attack, like post haste, because it's stupid. It is just stupid. It is not accurate to anything. Why? Hold on. Is that it? Why? 1, 2, 3 over. 1, 2, 3 over. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I don't understand. Someone give me the solution. Someone give me the solution. I feel these weapons are necessary because the FFs, what are the FFs? Realize no government would ever be truly trustworthy. Firearm? What does FF mean? Founding fathers. Okay. Firearm. Or does it? No government would ever be truly trustworthy. And I don't necessarily disagree with that argument. Like, it's in the Constitution. I don't think that we need to get rid of guns. I think that Democrats, again, firearms is hilarious. I was trying to figure out what it could possibly be. But here's the thing. I hear reasonable things from Democrats. As someone who has gone out and fired firearms, who has gone out and gone hunting, you know, I grew up around the stuff. I know how to be safe with a firearm. I know the rules around like where you should point that shit, when and why, you know, but it feels like on the Democratic side, I feel like the genuine feeling that they have is, you know what, it would be really nice if we didn't have to worry about, you know, is this it? Is this going to be it? No, I don't understand it. Someone please save me. Democrats like have like a pretty legitimate claim. Oh, I see why it is, I think. No, I don't. I don't see why it is. Do they both have to... Hold on. I just realized. Maybe this works. Maybe that works. Maybe that works. That should work. That should work. I don't get it, guys. What was I saying? Me. Someone remind me what I was saying before I thought that I had it and then didn't have it. It was... oh yeah, Democrats feel like they have like an actual reason behind the things that they're saying, right? Like, hey, we have like a bunch of people who are shooting each other. We obviously have some kind of problem with mass shootings, whether they're like at schools or at like major events. We have a problem with these things. And we would like to try and find some kind of solution for this, right? None of those solutions that have been proposed have ever been, let's ban all guns or forcibly take guns from people or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? And there is some kind of legitimate issue that we have with gun violence in the United States. It's multifaceted. There's a million different things that we could do to try and reduce gun crime. One of those things, unfortunately for gun owners, is there's a lot of guns on the streets. There's a lot of guns on the streets. Most people that kill people with guns use handguns. Probably got to do something about that. All right. At a certain point, something's got to be done. And I don't understand why, like any proposed solution, right? However uncomfortable for conservatives, like at a certain point, you just gotta say like, man, you know what? I totally get it. This is a little bit, you know what? This is probably a little bit. All right. We probably got a lot of people going into schools and shooting them up. All right. And maybe like the most rational solution wouldn't be to like outright just change the entire rest of society to accommodate this one right that we have, right? Like, again, I've said this a million times. Something that I noticed about the like conservative. Okay, so this can't be real. It feels like Republicans don't want to hear anything in regards to gun control whatsoever. They will never accept anything that has anything to do with gun control. And that's really unfortunate because we probably at this point really need to do something about guns in this country. At a certain point, we have to be honest with ourselves and say, hey, you know what? Maybe we're not doing this responsibly. Maybe we're not doing this the best way possible, you know? Look at chat for a second. You're being simplistic. Most gun violence is by illegal guns. That's... Well, man, I sure wish I had thought of that before saying literally anything. You know what? I literally never considered the fact that maybe people buy guns illegally and then use them for crime. My entire worldview is completely shattered right now, bro. Oh, man, what am I going to do? I never thought that maybe people who are doing illegal things might want to cover their tracks by using illegal guns that aren't registered to their name. Man, what the oh shit, dude. I need to go back to the drawing board. I never would have fucking thought about that, dude. I never would have thought about that. Holy shit, dude. That's crazy. Garth, let me level with you for a second. You have no idea who you're talking to. You have no idea how much research I've done. Obviously, illegal guns are a massive issue. You know what helps with illegal guns on the streets? Gun buyback programs. No questions asked. That is 1,000,000% like something that we could do. Ghost guns? Hey, guess what? I don't think that ghost guns should be legal, personally. All right. I think there's way too much like possibility for really bad shit. They don't work. If you're trying to get illegal guns, specifically illegal guns, off of the streets, and there are people who are poor that want like some quick cash, yeah, no questions asked, gun buyback programs that are held on a regular basis can absolutely help. I think that in my home city of Houston, there was there was a brief snafu with it because of ghost guns. So they had the no questions asked gun buyback system. I think this guy printed off like 30 ghost guns and then went and collected like $700 for each one or some shit like that, and then they had to change the rules for the next day. So I mean, there's that. But me building an AR-15 in my apartment would be considered a ghost gun. I thought that ghost gun, maybe I'm wrong here. The only thing that I've heard of in regards to ghost guns is 3D printed guns. I've never heard of a like home kit AR-15 being considered a ghost gun. Am I wrong there? Does ghost gun not refer to like 3D printed firearms? We do it all the time. They sell the lower quality guns and keep the better ones. Are you talking about the gun buyback program? Happy birthday, goofy kid. Home kits have been considered ghost guns? Okay, well, I didn't know that. The only way that I've ever heard ghost guns referred to is through 3D printing stuff. So, but yeah, like, here's the thing. We have some kind of issue. Everybody recognizes that there's some kind of issue with people shooting each other in the United States. I welcome them, you know. Sorry, I get so mind when a new message pops up in chat. We all recognize there is a problem. I don't ever hear like actual like solutions from Republicans. Like I hear these like broad things, these broad prescriptions like, oh, well, we just need to have respect, and, you know, respect and, you know, family units put back into the country, because if this guy had a father figure in his life, he would have never done this. Like I hear that shit all the time. Right. And I mean, like, that's a perfectly fine opinion to have if you want to just like be and sit in your home and never think about like the broader implications of anything that you say. But like, if you want to like actually solve something, I would like to see some kind of like tangible plan or like some problem identified, and then a solution, you know, put out after that. And I don't ever hear that when it comes to like guns and Republicans. I just don't, because the topic of any kind of gun control or taking away someone's guns that might be like a danger to society, like any kind of system that I have thought up that would like give everyone their due process, that would like, or any that I've ever heard of that would give everyone their due process, that would get the guns out of people who are like an immediate threat or a possible immediate threat to people around them. Like at a certain point, like I just don't listen to Republicans, you know. I don't want to, I would never give a Republican who's, you know, offering a solution that doesn't involve, you know, identifying a specific problem and then offering a solution to that problem that is realistic and doesn't involve, you know, like, oh, well, we have a mental health crisis in this country, and then never offering any solution for how to fix that mental health problem. You know, like me, like, give me a solution. Otherwise, I am going to look at the Democrat solutions and say, these are better than your solutions because you guys aren't offering solutions, you know? I just feel I shouldn't have to pay my rights away for someone else's stupidity. I mean, that's like the entire social contract that our country was founded upon, right? Like security versus freedom. Was that Hobbes or was that Locke? Like we have certain privileges and certain rights that we are granted by the government, and at a certain point, I don't even care if some of these rights get rolled back in some ways. Now, I don't think, again, that like gun rights should be taken away from everyone, blah, 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 blah. I don't think that, because again, I think guns are cool. I think that they're fun to shoot. I had a great time, you know, with my grandfather going out and hunting in the woods of Arkansas and shooting squirrels, those poor little squirrels just getting sniped out of trees or blown apart by 12 gauges. Like, we had a great time. I shot deer, I shot 308s, muzzle loaders, doesn't matter. I'll shoot anything. But you know, I'm not flustered. I'm just like, it's just like one of those things that, man, it would be great to hear a good, or what's like a an actual proposal from an elected Republican that actually identifies a problem and then, seeks to solve it. Immigration could be solved with mass deportations and ignore the liberals. They're literally traitors at this point. Good for you. You'll shoot anything? Yeah, I'll shoot any firearm. Oh, wait, hold on. If you're reading it the other way, like I'll shoot anything. Okay, chill out. Okay, just be easy. All right, just be chill. All right. I'm in New York, Rochester. We have had our former mayor's husband busted with illegal guns, a handgun, an AR-15, a Democrat mayor's husband. I don't know what the rules are in listen, I just moved away from Texas, and there's basically no rules. I don't know what the rules are in New York. I might disagree with them. I might agree with them to some degree, right? Like, and, like different states are probably going to have different rules because they have different needs. A place like Texas, doesn't have the population density for there to be like, crazy gang warfare like there is in Chicago. So it would make sense for like, Illinois or Chicago to have their own laws around guns that don't interfere with the Second Amendment, but also like make it to where it's harder for there to be like open gang warfare, Houston, that's where I'm from. The problem is illegal guns. Well, Garth, here's the problem with the whole line about illegal guns. Most illegal guns are illegal after they're purchased. The purchasing of them, generally speaking, tends to be legal, and then they cross state lines, and now they are illegal because they are crossing state lines and being like... I'm more informed on this than you, Garth. I guarantee you. Like, most people that are like selling illegal guns bought them legally, and then they're selling them to people that can't legally buy a gun. Like, that's the truth. Where do you think the majority of handguns in Chicago come from? They come from Indiana. Are you in favor of a national gun registry? No, I've heard a good argument for it, but I would have to look way more into it specifically. The like things that I've heard that I'm most in favor of, but I'm, or gun buyback programs, voluntary gun buyback programs. I don't think that we should do anything involuntarily. So like if you have like a gun buyback program where it's like, hey, well, if you have an illegal gun, we're not going to ask any questions. We're just going to buy the gun from you. Here's, $500 for, this kind of gun, $700 for this kind of gun. If you come in and you want to sell it to us, then we will buy it from you. No questions asked. That's totally fine with me. Like a mandatory gun buyback program, there would have to be a very specific need and a very specific way in which we go about it. But, that's what I'm saying. Like a buyback program, if it's voluntary, fine. If it's involuntary, it's a mandatory one. I don't think so. Gun education should be mandatory. Nope, I don't think so. I think that's ridiculous. We don't live in the wild, wild west. We have a little bit more going for us than that. I think that we're fine. No, most illegal guns are that. Wait, no, most illegal guns are guns that are possessed by people who should not have guns. Yes. But they're purchased legally, and then they're resold to people that are not allowed to have the guns. I believe in the right. I mean, like, at the end of the day, like, I'm fine with people being able to own those things. I think that, like, the more, deadly or, propensity for, like, these things to be used against, human beings, like when it comes to a hunting rifle, probably don't need very many, regulations on that. On a machine gun, probably do need some regulations on that, right? Like, you're not going to go deer hunting or, like sport shooting unless you're going out and shooting the hogs, the javelinas in Texas. You probably don't need a fully automatic weapon. Like, I'm not like super upsetty about it, right? I don't care if people have a machine gun, but like I would want people with a certain level of trust to be able to buy these things rather than just like, like, damn. Well, now if I like the first like couple of names that went through my head, I was like, you know what? Someone's going to call me racist if I use that name. And then I picked another name. I was like, oh, well, you know what? Someone might think that I'm being racist using that name. But now if I use a white name, then everyone's going to think that I'm cucking out. I don't want Bill down the street, who's been seeing shit to be able to buy a machine gun without like a level 3 clearance or whatever I don't think the illegal guns are purchased legally, Chief. Do they just materialize? Do you think that there are like sweatshops in the basements of Chicago where they're putting together guns? Like, where do you think the illegal guns come from? They were purchased legally and either stolen or they were resold to someone that was not allowed to have them. And then they'll do shit like file off the serial number so it can't be traced back to the guy that sold it. Like this is just like an accepted fact. Like, I'm not trying to make shit up for my agenda. Like I'm not. I don't really have an agenda. I just wish that we could have a more honest conversation around the gun issue. But like here, like in chat here, wait a second. You're talking semantics. Gun violence is a real issue. Yeah, I know that. Who are you talking to? We literally had kids steal a gun from a gun safe from. Well, me. Am I having a stroke or is this Garth guy like typing? I don't want to single you out because but me. We literally had kids steal a gun safe from a home and then use the guns to do a drive-by at a boys and girls club. Hey, guess what? If they were in a gun safe, those were probably legally purchased guns that someone stole. Why not just say violence is an issue? I mean, violence is an issue, but every gun owner knows this. Guns are force multipliers. A knife is a force multiplier. Artillery is a force multiplier, right? It just depends on what you're using them for and, how many people or things you're trying to injure. If you have a knife, you're going to have a force multiplier of, let's say, ×2 versus someone who's just punching you. If you have a handgun, you probably have a force multiplier of ×10. If you have a rifle, then you probably have a higher one than that, Like, they're force multipliers. You shoot people and they die. That is what guns were invented for, right? I don't care if you have a gun for home defense. I don't care if you have a gun to go hunting with. I don't care about that shit whatsoever. If you just like to shoot guns, I don't give a about that. That's totally fine with me. I just don't have an issue with that. But there's obviously, and it seems like everyone's agreeing in chat, that there is some kind of issue with gun violence in the United States. How do we fix this? Well, it's probably, again, I'm going to say it again, multifaceted. And if we want to fix this, part of that is probably going to be some degree of like gun control. This can be done in a good way if we actually have a decent conversation about it, or if both sides are just like ultra obstinate and like crybaby, like, oh, well, if you do one amount of gun control or something that like makes it harder for me to get a gun, then you're just going to rip all of my rights away. So we're not going to do anything. At a certain point, the other side is going to be like, well, at this point, like, we just keep on putting the problem off. It keeps getting worse and worse. At this point, yeah, maybe we should ban all guns. Like, you guys got to understand that when you hold a hardcore, hyper obstinate position where you will not budge an inch on literally any part of it, right? Like, it's going to push, and I've seen this myself on a dozen other issues. I will look at it in just a second, Gas, okay? Like, I've seen this on a dozen other issues where people hold this hardcore, like, look at trans issues. It's really not that hard to just like be like, I don't give a what trans people do, right? If they want to piss, I don't give a if they want to piss. If they want to transition, I don't care. Like, you're not with me, I'm not with you. But there are some people online that push the issue with the most hardcore radical bent that they possibly could, and you know what? It made a lot of people hate trans people even more than they probably hated them in the beginning. At the end of the day, that's what's happening with gun issues, right? Like, you ask most Democrats aren't for getting rid of the Second Amendment. If you ask most elected Democrats, none of them are going to be saying we need to get rid of the Second Amendment, right? Like, I can't think of any major Democratic politician that's about that, right? But we can't have this circular conversation where Democrats say stupid shit like we need to ban AR-15s when that's probably not what the issue is. Like, just banning AR-15s isn't going to fix anything, right? And then you have the Republicans on the other side saying, oh, well, if you touch my guns, like, we shouldn't have any restrictions whatsoever on any kind of gun. We should just have machine guns and An armed society is a polite society. And at that point, I just want both of them to die so that we can move on and have a better conversation about this. But nobody cares about that because we've all heard the same 3 or 4 slogans that our side, yeah, there it is, shall not be infringed. You are a joke, Pepe the Jonkler. Like, it's the same 3 or 4 like talking points and slogans that I've seen every day of my entire life that I've ever paid attention to politics. Like, it's just like, it's impossible. Hey, can you maybe play my game on stream? What game? Rockerhead HD. This better not be ass. Fact, I'm from South Africa, and legally owning a gun is an absolute pain in the ass, but getting an illegal gun stolen, sold by corrupt police, smuggled from outside is super cheap and easy. Yeah, I think that, like, if we abolished the Second Amendment, then we would just have a bunch of illegal guns all over the place in the U.S. It's part of our culture. People like to have guns. People like to go hunting. I'm fine with that. Shall not isn't going away. Do you realize that the interpretation of the Second Amendment, do you know when the interpretation as it is right now was first laid out, where like the individual had the ultimate right to own arms? Do you know, like, that shall not thing, that slogan? Do you know how old that is? Because I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this. That individual guaranteed right to own a gun, unless you're a felon or anything, that Supreme Court case, when was my interpretation laid out? I don't have an interpretation that's like built off of like crying over the maximalist or minimalist Second Amendment interpretation. I just want us to have a realistic conversation. But Cookie Monster, you're like the perfect embodiment of someone that can't have this conversation, because shall not be infringed, shall not be infringed. Like, it's a thought terminating cliche at this point. It's just so, like, can you offer me any solution? Like, you know what? You can go away for 5 minutes. All right. What does shall not mean? What does shall not mean? Yeah. Do you think I don't understand what you're trying to say? I'm not going to engage with the same trope that I've engaged with for the past fucking 10 years of my life. Please go take your medicine. Okay. Sand, again, I'm not unreasonable. I understand there is some issue, but the only way most gunners would agree to other issues you and I probably agree on is if you promise 2A protection. No, Democrat. First off, I agree with you. Okay. I don't disagree with you. What your issue is that, like, if you promise 2A protection, what does 2A protection mean? Because to the Cookie Monster guy, that means you can't you can't make any regulations around guns. You can't tell people what they can and can't buy, yada, 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 yada. Okay? It's so, because the entire premise that you're doing, the promise of 2A protection, no Democrat that has been elected to office at any high level has advocated to get rid of the Second Amendment. None of them. There have been statements from all sorts of different Democrats. I agree, okay? All sorts of Democrats have said, Joe Biden said, we need to ban the AR-15, or what was that stupid line that he said about, like, you put a brace on a pistol, suddenly you can shoot higher caliber bullets out of it. Like, obviously, like, Democrats are stupid because they don't understand anything about guns. Republicans are because they don't have any real solutions to any of the problems that we have around guns. I just want a conservative to come out with an actual, like, policy. But again, like, I think that there was a bipartisan piece of gun legislation passed under Biden that was crafted by both a Democrat and a Republican, and it passed. I don't remember exactly what it did, but USA has a long history of gun regulations. Yeah, but, like, they don't care about that because, like, they have their slogans, and the slogan is shall not be infringed, you know? Stop treating gangs as though they're the Girl Scouts. Pepe the Jonkler. I literally talked about gang violence at the beginning of this whole segment, okay? And I can't read every single chat because I'm also talking. Solution: actually crack down on organized crime and stop allowing recidivism solely on a basis of avoiding racism. I don't know if that like the crackdown on organized crime, part of that would probably have to do with like illegal guns, and like it feels like any kind of like laws around attacking people for owning guns would be shat on. Like I don't disagree. Like yeah, organized crime and all the gangs in Chicago. I almost said Colorado. Yeah, all the people in Chicago who are doing gang violence. Obviously, the primary type of weapon that is used in murders in the United States is a handgun. Okay, people aren't going around with 12 gauges or 20 gauges and blowing holes in people. It's mostly handguns. The solution of like we'll just crack down on crime. How? What kind of crime are we cracking down on? Is it going to be gun crime? Is it going to be murders? Like, do you not think that the Chicago Police Department is not trying to arrest people? Like, the gun community is very reactionary. I mean, obviously, someone in power says something, they react defensively. I, as a kind of nutty gunner, am willing to admit this. Yeah, and see, that's the problem. There has to be someone reasonable from the gun community that is willing to talk about these things and what things would be like some kind of regulation or wait times or red flag laws, right? Like there are ways to construct. One second. Like I've heard of ways to construct a red flag law in a way that doesn't infringe on someone's due process, right? That like gets their guns back to them in a reasonable amount of time if they're not like insane or unhinged or something like that. And I think that that's something that probably should happen. Because there are, I think, 3. I can't remember exactly which ones. I know one of them was the Parkland shooting. But there's been at least 3 major mass shootings where the FBI knew about the danger that the shooter was presenting, but they literally did not have a legal avenue to do anything because they hadn't broken the law yet. They didn't have access to any kind of like no gun list the way that they can no fly list someone. So like the FBI knew that these people were a danger, but they were kneecapped by the legal process around taking people's guns that led to the failure in law enforcement, you know? There is a no gun list, and not in the way that I'm talking about. I don't know what no gun. Are you talking about like people who are felons or people that like did domestic abuse? Because that's not what I'm talking about. The gang members are running around with full auto Glocks. If they're doing that, they should be sentenced. Like, I don't disagree. Like, there might be some kind of program that they're trying to, like, get youth who have been arrested and caught with these things to, like, rehabilitate them. And, like, I think that I have a softer spot for kids than I do for adults who do this shit. Like, if you're, like, between the ages of, like, let's say 18 or younger, okay? Let's say 18 or younger, and you decide to, like, start posting up with a gang because that's, like, everyone in your neighborhood is doing that shit, and you get caught and you have, like, a Glock that you shouldn't have. Should that person go to jail for 30 years and they're under the age of 18 and they don't really have a fully developed prefrontal cortex? Like, am I okay with, you know, there being some kind of thing? Like, you know, maybe we should give this person a second chance so that she's not, or I'm sorry, I'm reading a text, so that they don't get totally for the rest of their life. Because of a stupid mistake they made when they were 14. The FBI controls the gun background check system. Yeah, but it's like 3 or 4 different systems, isn't it? 15-year-old shot a cop here, out in 6 years. Okay. Do y'all think that like the police and the FBI just like don't do and the ATF just like don't do any kind of like raids all like ever? Like, do you think that they just like don't ever try to like get rid of gangs that are shooting people, or like, you know? Catch you later, Zapcat. I'd rather give someone the 30 plus years before they catch bodies. That's, I'm sorry, you're like that. I'm not like the bleeding heart liberal kind, but like as a person with a soul, that is like just like heartless shit. Like a 12-year-old who's like the only thing that he's ever known is like people around him who are gangbangers, and then like he goes out one day and he has a gun on him because everyone tells him to hold a gun on him, and then he gets locked in jail until he's 42. Like, I'm sorry, you're like a heartless, like you don't give a about like children. You don't give a about like anything except for like, I don't know, you know. I was 12 and knew being a gangbanger was bad despite my whole family hating cops. That doesn't prove anything. You didn't grow up in the same environment as them, and even if you did, like not everyone has like the same kind of like upbringing as you, even in the same area. Like me, dude. Like we're talking about averages, not your specific thing. Ever heard of Ruby Ridge? Yeah, that was, seemed like it was a up on the ATF/FBI. I can't remember which one it was. Meth what's and gangbangers have. Wait, what the are you trying to say? Sorry. The FBI is politicized, corrupt, and trustworthy. Interesting. Gang culture being glorified and how that contributes to gun violence. I'm sure that like at a certain like to a certain degree it yeah, it probably does. I don't know, like truthfully, like I do know that like the 90s like 90s rap like absolutely was like way more about like the gang banging shit or whatever the you want to call it. Like there was definitely more gangster culture when it came to rap before. I'm not sure if that culture persists in the same way that it did back then, you know? Just because the genre has expanded so much. So I'm not even sure if like that's a major thing. But I would put that like downstream of like the issue. There's obviously some sort of in like poorer communities, you're going to see people who are more desperate and people who have a a cultural antagonistic relationship with the police and have an antagonistic relationship with authority in general. They have quick ways to make money, and that's selling drugs and doing other shit like robbing people. And that culture needs to change, and that's going to have to happen from within. And from the outside, there's things that we can do to try and, massage that change into happening, right? Some of those things, in my opinion, probably are going to have to do with, like voluntary, I'll say it a million times, voluntary gun buyback systems. So if you have illegal guns, they'll buy them back, no questions asked. That'll get more guns off the street, et cetera, et cetera. Like that sort of thing is probably something we need to do. We probably need to invest more in these areas so that we have more police presence there. We have more businesses opening up there so that there's like legitimate jobs so that people don't feel like they're totally, and people who have stable jobs are less likely to commit crime because they have they have a stable life. If we remove instability from people's lives, less likely for them to go into, or for them to desist being in, any kind of crime syndicate, and less likely for future people to join those crime syndicates. Like there's like but again, like gun issues are like multifaceted. It doesn't come down just to guns. It's going to be a million different things that we need to do. But like again, when the response that I get, and I'm not reading chat right now because I want to finish this, right? Not going to make a difference. I just broke my own rule that I said a second ago. At the end of the day, like everyone has like the one solution. Oh, well, we should just lock up everyone that even carries an illegal gun for 30 years, even if they're a child, and never give them like, do you think that's going to ingratiate like those communities towards like the police? Like the police should probably have a good relationship with the people in the community. We should probably try to foster those kinds of relationships with the community. But like at the end of the day, like you guys don't want to have those conversations because all you hear is me saying we need to get rid of guns, even though I say like 5 million times that like getting rid of guns isn't the solution. You can't watch a music video without seeing a Glock with a switch. That's not true. I've seen a lot of music videos recently that don't have Glocks or switches. Is MK Ultra real or not? Does the FBI want gun control or do they not have an opinion? I'm sure individuals at the FBI like have opinions about gun control. Like MK Ultra was real, but it's not what you think it was. It was them searching for a truth serum and it was failed, and they were very embarrassed about that. Like it doesn't really go much deeper than that. Does the FBI want gun control? I'm not actually sure, and I don't actually care what the FBI's opinion specifically. Now, if they give like a recommendation for like what gun control ought to be, and then like statistics that go along with it, and how it would help and how it would hurt, and blah 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 blah, that's something that like I would be more interested in looking at. But just like the idea of just like, does the FBI want there to be gun control? I don't care, because the FBI doesn't get to say whether the Second Amendment is, legitimate or not. The FBI is corrupt and political, though? Nope, I don't think so. We have a massive disagreement there that I don't want to get into right now because we're talking about something else. Oh, hey, Tinflix, how's it going? My face when I'm watching only 90s rap videos. True. Well, then you're dumb. Ah, man, you totally destroyed me. Fast and Furious gun program? Don't know about it. Again, like, gun issues aren't my number one issue. There have been a couple of times where I've looked into them. I am like passionate about trying to fix the issues that we have with like mass shootings, but I don't think that like nothing that I've said thus far has even touched the issue of mass shootings. Like that's something that like we need to get a handle on, and neither side has a reasonable conversation about that. And I don't even know if I would have a solution to it because the issue is so complex. But I cannot explain to you guys how much I just get. I turn into an anti-Second Amendment person every time there's a school shooting. Okay, I turn into that loser. But that's because immediately after the shooting at Uvalde, me and my mom drove a bunch of school supplies over there, and I had to see the fallout of that with mine own eyes. I got to see children crying at the memorial sites of their dead kindergarten friends, and it really was not cool. YouTube chat is the slums. Yeah, I know. But yeah, like I've seen the direct aftermath of that on a community with my own eyes. And Republicans, when they start doing the thoughts and prayers thing, sorry, I see red. Like I have not seen a serious solution from Republicans, either elected or online, when it comes to gun issues. I have not seen them propose any solution besides, oh well, the rules on the books. The rules on the books aren't enforced because there are so many roadblocks to them being enforced that you guys would never allow to be rolled back. Like there's so much complexity to it, and nobody ever wants to have a real conversation about it. They just, as long as it's not directly affecting them, I don't think Republicans will ever give a about any kind of like real solution to gun issues, which is why you see like so many people who are in the communities where there are mass shootings at schools or at shopping malls who are like Second Amendment people. They'll come out and they'll say, hey, you know what? Actually, this shit does kind of suck. This shit does kind of suck, and I'm tired of hearing about this, and now it's happened to me, and now I care about it. It feels like unless something directly happens to someone who is conservative, it's an alien problem that other people need to deal with, and don't you dare with me about it. But like, guess what? We're all American. We all have to deal with the consequences of all these actions. Like, what are you talking about? The full context would be a start. Everyone just forgot what was in Audrey Hale's manifesto, and there was never a true motive announced. Is that the mass shooting like trans person? That's the example that you want to say like, oh well, we just don't have enough information. Like really? You think trans people are like the biggest issue with mass shootings? Because if I bring up the demographics of mass shooters who go on like mass shooting sprees that write manifestos, you're probably not going to you're going to call me a libcuck for bringing up what demographic does it the most. When the hell did I say that? Oh, I'm sorry. then explain to me the implication behind what you were saying about Audrey Hale. Okay, I'm not defending that like scum piece of shit. Like it's good that they mowed her down like at the spot, right? But like understanding the why helps us understand the how, right? But like Republicans never wanted to hear the why. The Buffalo shooter went and shot up the Walmart or it was a grocery store or something in Buffalo, and then the Walmart in El Paso, or the like 5 or 6 other like white nationalist inspired shootings. Like Republicans just say, "Oh, you guys scream Nazi all the time," when like now we want to look at the now we want to look at the manifestos. I'm all for it. Yeah, we should understand how it happened. But like this is the first time I've ever heard a conservative say, hey, we should look at the manifesto and really understand the reasons behind why someone decided to go and shoot up a school. Oh, so I may come across differently, but I genuinely do care about people. I want things to be better without resorting to extremes. Half measures haven't worked so far. The problem is when it comes to like the SSRI stuff, there's not enough evidence. Like there's way more evidence showing that they help people than they hurt people. And it seems like with a lot of the people that go on these mass shootings, even if they are on SSRIs, there's usually some kind of law enforcement incident that happens before, but they're completely kneecapped from ever doing anything to get those guns away from the people before they do the shooting. So what was the slur? Well, no one's going to say it too. Okay. And if anybody types it in chat, you will be insta-banned. I do not give a Conservatives almost never engage on the topic beyond it's a mental health issue while going on to fund mental health like complete shit in their states. True. To me, indicates they don't actually care about the why unless it's a